So with the toppling of this Confederate statue, what has been the net reduction of racism in the United States? Is the answer 0? I think it might be. I don't think this has had any noticeable effect on the amount of racism in your country, so why did you do this? All you have done here is mimic ISIS and every other cultural movement in history that wants to remove the inferior past from existence because it didn't adhere to its current ideological whim. And the thing is, this is nothing new. This happens all throughout history. You can go all the way back to, say, Akhenaten. When he implemented the first monotheistic religion, he went around all the temples, well, not him personally, but he had all the temples defaced and all of the other gods removed. And then when he was overthrown, he was removed from all of the statues and monuments. His name was scrubbed from as many of them as possible, because this is a statement of cultural hegemony. The Christians did the same in the Roman Empire. When Christianity was ascendant, they went around all of the pagan statues and carved crosses in their faces as they smashed them down. This is an ideological revolution taking place, and we don't have to let it happen. And I hate to say that Donald Trump was right, but he was absolutely correct when he said that this was a slippery slope and it wouldn't simply stop at slave-owning Confederates. Pastor urges mayor to remove George Washington statue and rename a park over slavery. Fucking why? Do you think that park is going to make people think, you know what, maybe slavery wasn't so bad? I love this quote from Trump. You really have to ask yourself, where does it stop? It doesn't. They have to all go. Because they were not part of the current ideological zeitgeist. They come from a morally inferior history that everyone has. Everyone has a morally inferior history, and I'll explain to you why. Moral innovation is like technological innovation. It has been progressing throughout human history. There was a time in history, way back in the mists of history, where slavery didn't exist. And do you know what happened after a conquest? That's right, all of the people were simply killed. Slavery itself was actually a moral innovation. Not a very good one, not a very advanced one, rather cruel in some ways, but it was probably better than just being butchered. To judge the past by the morals of the present and to find those people morally inferior is like saying that medieval knights were bad at war because they didn't have guns. It's fucking stupid, and anyone, every single person who even thinks that they can justify this is a fucking moron. Were you born in the same time and place as these people, you would think the same things. These were societal norms. This is not actually something that we can really morally judge them by, any more than we can judge the past for being technologically inferior. Everyone who is participating in this is a fucking fool. And as I said, the iconoclasm simply doesn't stop until every single statue that is not part of the party or ideological orthodoxy has been removed. This is a statue of a man who died in 1991, and it was defaced with a Black Power message. Oh well, guess he must have been a slave owner then. Speaking of slave owners, some absolute cocksucker decided to vandalize a statue of Abraham Lincoln! Because apparently they skipped history class. What a fucking moron you'd have to be to think that was an appropriate thing. I mean, even if you're an anti-racist, like, Abraham Lincoln is an important figure on the road to being anti-racist. You know, this is actually mind-blowing to me. But of course, locals take to social media to call him racist because, again, he just wasn't born in our era. And so he couldn't partake in our moral standards. And so Abraham Lincoln can get fucked, can't he? And of course you had progressive outlets like Vice. Let's blow up Mount Rushmore. Let's blow up Vice headquarters. How about that? Which one is more pleasing to the eye? Which one does more good for humanity? But of course, after the inevitable backlash, they decided to change it. Let's just get rid of it. No, Wilbur L. Cooper, go and get fucked. Donald Trump says removing Confederate statues is a slippery slope that will get out of control. Maybe he's right, but would that be such a bad thing? Yes. Yes, it would be a bad thing. Shut up and fuck off. More than ever, old monuments to famous white American men, the worst kind of American men, are being threatened in the name of progress. How is tearing down monuments progress? What are we progressing to? Seems to be a future in which we deny the past because we didn't agree with it. But it's okay, you fucking morons. We don't live there. The past is some foreign country you've not been to and you never will. Fact is, I'm not sure there's any American president worthy of being etched into the side of a 60-foot mountain with explosives and jackhammers. I mean, every single one has at least been partially complicit in horrific atrocities. That's fucking life. All of human history, there have been atrocities, wars, deaths, disease. It's been terrible. It's been fucking terrible, and we have finally come to a place in which we don't actually lionize those things, and now you're like, well, you know what we should do? We should tear down everything on the journey here. No. These things are the collective cultural memory of our civilizations, and a reminder of why we don't do these things now. They should stay. And if your ideology can't stand them being there, that's your fucking problem. I love at the end of this article, with the President of the United States basically justifying neo-Nazism. No, he didn't. No, he fucking didn't. He condemned them in explicit terms, and he also condemned the alt-left, which I think is a perfectly good name, because you guys seem to hate being called the alt-left. And the more you hate it, the more I'm going to call you alt-left. So get used to it, you fucks. And I also like this. Editor's note, the headline and URL of this story have been updated. We do not condone violence in any shape or form, and the use of blow up in the original headline as a rhetorical device was misguided and insensitive. Yeah, shut up. Honestly, I am absolutely sick of people just tearing down monuments. I hate this kind of shit. The monuments are an expression of your cultural history. They are the steps by which you took to come to the place you are at now. And the place you're at now is a hell of a lot better than the place you were at, say, 300 years ago or 200 years ago. And it's important to remember why you ended up here and not somewhere else. Loads of places are tearing these statues down, and there's absolutely no need for it. I don't see the need for this at all, unless you want to placate hard left ideologues, and I don't. So fuck these people. And you know what? Good. I'm glad that there are people putting these monuments back up. They didn't just stand for racism and slavery, they also stood for other things. But more importantly, they are part of your history. You can't erase this. Even if you tear down all of these monuments, that won't change anything. All it will do is make people look at you like you think you are taking over. Like you deserve to be the ones tearing everything down, which you don't. You've not earned this. Just because you think you have the moral justification, I'm here to tell you don't. You are not morally justified in anything you do. In fact, you are the immoral people who are so afraid of their own place in the world that they can't stand to see something that disagrees with them. If you can't bear to see these things up, that's your problem. That's not anyone else's problem, that's your problem. You're the dysfunctional one here, not everyone else. What's that? This has encouraged other people to tear down statues as well? Statues of people they don't like Vladimir Lenin? Well, I've got to say I'm not really a big fan of that either. I mean, it's not like he did anything to Seattle, so I don't see the point. But unsurprisingly, the communists are like, oh, please don't tear down the Lenin statue. I mean, this is the Russian Communist Party that's complaining about this, so it's not at least communists that live in the United States. But still, it's just, there's no need for this. There's absolutely no need for this.